We're catching up with the member for Mallee, Anne Webster from Canberra. The reaction to the federal budget for you, Anne?
You can't see my face, Ricky, but it is, horrified, disappointed, probably resigned. This is precisely what we expected from Labor, and people in Mallee and regional Australia more broadly are going to suffer going forward.
It looks like a root and branch removal of any National Party signature policy in the bush from what I've seen. No more Hell's Gate Dam, no Wyangala Dam increase, and water buybacks in the River Murray.
Absolutely, that's just water, let alone the removal of the instant asset write-off, which benefited farmers, and if they don't get their, and small business, I might say, and if they don't get their goods delivered by June next year, it's off the table, period. It will not be available to them. So it will be depreciation over many years as per usual. Likewise, the cash for apprenticeship subsidies, which was our policy again. 50% of wages being covered by the government to encourage business owners to take on apprentices. It was working incredibly well, and now they want to take that away as well.
But it seems they could find $2.2 billion to help the Suburban rail loop in Melbourne. Have we just seen yet again a reinforcing of Labor's focus on metropolitan seats?
The disappointing, I shouldn't be disappointed, this is my fourth year in politics, but the disappointing attitude of, calling out the Nationals for rorts and for pork barrelling. And I'm sorry, when you are going to deliver 500 for all other states and territories, but Dan Andrews gets a very special $2.2 billion for a suburban rail loop, there's something wrong with that. And I've just spoken with another MP colleague of mine who says that Labor have just funded $15 million for a pool, must be a pretty cool pool, in Queensland, in Gladstone, which private investors had already got the approval to build. So they're now competing for votes. They are competing with private investment. I mean, what are they doing?
Well, it's just like this Double J initiative. They want to spend $500,000 to investigate putting the new Triple J, Double J out into regional broadcast areas where stations like Flow FM and others are already doing the work.
That's exactly right. I just don't understand. Is this just simply a state takeover so they can control the messaging going forward? Nothing would surprise me. It's a little bit like the Anti-Corruption Commission, the National Anti-Corruption Commission. I've just gone through hearings about that, and I can tell you now, when you exclude the unions but you include everybody else, there is something wrong.
Well, that's what I sort of opined about on our website right up about the budget, was that it did seem that the union movement was sitting quietly in the wings. You would usually hear them screaming and yelling about a lack of assistance for those with real wages because there were some rewards or handouts to them coming, and that sounds like one of them.
Oh, it's just absolutely disgraceful. And if you're going to talk about childcare, $4.5 billion to subsidise childcare for people who are earning up to $530,000 a year. I mean, really. And there is not one additional childcare place that would be found for that money. So in regional areas, I have 7 towns in Mallee that's a childcare desert. So 1 in 3 kids live in a childcare desert, and Mallee, we've got plenty of it. There will be no facilities, which we had funded. We committed to funding. There will be no facilities given. So the children who already cannot access childcare will not benefit one iota from that $4.5 billion investment.
Yep, that supposed cost of living relief isn't going to be much benefit in a childcare desert.
No, not at all. Not at all. And look, honestly, Mallee has lost all of the infrastructure spend that we had committed, and I absolutely reject the notion that it was pork barrelling or rorts. And as we've already said, given Labor's current behaviour, I just think don't call any kettles black would be my advice.
Now, I'm speaking with the Transport and Infrastructure Minister, Catherine King, tomorrow morning, and I do want to zero in on the Murray Basin Rail Project. You and I and others in the area have spoken regularly about it. Now, no federal money gone towards that. Is there an issue there in that they might see more freight going through her own electorate of Ballarat?
I'd be very interested in what you find out there. Because I can tell you right now, the roads in Mallee are a disgrace. The floods and rain have not assisted, but the quad trucks that are going through by increasing numbers and the less freight on rail is just causing such degradation. I want to know what her solution is to that.
Well, there's an increase, which they try and point out in the budget papers, was due to the previous government on the heavy vehicle levy within diesel, I think, to pay for road maintenance. But that's not going to pay a lot for the heavy infrastructure load that's needed, not just for the already road maintenance, but all of the infrastructure damaged by flooding.
Oh, it's absolutely true. And they are rewarding their inner green seats in Melbourne with reduced taxes on EVs and, things that work in the night in cities, but certainly don't function that well out in the country. So who's going to be paying for the roads when the fuel excise is basically removed because most vehicles become EVs? They've got no plan. This is the problem here.
Well,
they have no plan for how they're improving roads.
Well, something we don't have any transparency on is how much they have put away in the budget on water buyback. They claim for commercial confidence reasons we can't know that, but it does look like in this current financial year with 8 months to go, there will be buybacks occurring in the Murray-Darling Basin.
Look, it's a horrendous story for regional Australia and agriculture broadly in the Murray-Darling Basin region. And the fact, once again, you and I have spoken before about a North Sydney MP who's now managing this portfolio. David Littleproud got up in the chamber not that long ago and said, called this out, that there was no transparency on this issue and that any water buybacks would see decimation in the agricultural industry. It's outrageous. People ought to really know what this budget is doing.
Well, you've got to ask whether it's a blank cheque for water buybacks. Surely during question time about to start shortly, you might find out a bit more. We can only hope.
I hope so. Exactly.
Anne Webster, thanks very much for joining us from Canberra today, and we'll catch you again soon.
Good on you. Thanks, Ricky.